2D and 2.5D Unreal Engine games are now everywhere. Outside of JRPGs, we now have some Metroidvanias, beat-em-ups, survivor-likes, horror games, boomer shooters, roguelite deck builders, and even visual novels, with the most popular titles reaching millions of players across PC, consoles, and mobile devices. When I started looking into Paper 2D back in 2021 and put together a list of games, I could barely find a handful of examples, with Octopath Traveler and Ender Lilies being the most well-known. But now my list has grown to over 130 noteworthy titles, and there are more and more new Unreal 2D and 2D 3D hybrid games releasing every single year. So how did we get from sprite-based Unreal games being frowned upon and barely existing, to now getting multiple AA releases and a whole bunch of indie games per year reaching millions of gamers? First, we gotta look at the most successful Unreal 2D titles and how they paved the way for everyone else. Even though Paper 2D, which is Unreal's sprite-based system for creating 2D and 2D 3D hybrid games, first released in 2014, it took quite a while for any noteworthy titles to show up. And you might think I'll start talking about Octopath now, but actually there was a quite successful title before it utilizing Paper 2D. The Vagrant, also known as Sword of the Vagrant, released in early access during June 2017 using Paper 2D flipbooks for the player character and a bone-based tool called Creature for enemies. Even though it is not as big as most of the Square Enix titles we'll talk about soon, it did manage to reach almost 400,000 players and a gross revenue of roughly $700,000 on Steam alone, while also being available on the Switch, PlayStations, and Xboxes, and you could say it was the first high-quality Unreal 2D title. Just a year after that, in 2018, we got the first Octopath Traveler, which birthed the HD 2D style and now also has a mobile game, a direct sequel, and a prequel that just released 2 months ago. Now, I'm not going to talk about Octopath too much here since I already made an in-depth video in the past which you can check out here, but I just want to say that Octopath was huge for Unreal 2D 3D hybrids, and the mainline series sold over 6 million times while the mobile game achieved over 15 million downloads. Outside of that, Square Enix also released Live Alive, Triangle Strategy, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, and Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake. And while none of these reached the popularity of Octopath, they did sell over 4 million units combined. Two other huge titles are Ender Lilies and Ender Magnolia, which are 2D Metroidvanias that were released in 2021 and 2025 respectively. They look very different from what we've seen so far and are closer to traditional flat 2D games, but use bone-based animations through a software called Spine that can be used together with Unreal. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people scratched their heads seeing the Unreal Engine logo on the startup screen of Ender Lilies. While both titles sold very well on their own, what really catapulted the player count was Ender Lilies being featured as a free PS Plus title in August 2024, leading to more than 6.4 million downloads within 30 days. And when it comes to big Paper 2D titles that are still in development and haven't released yet, there are a couple to look forward to. Threads of Time is an upcoming JRPG inspired by Chrono Trigger, which is currently being developed with Unreal Engine 5. It already has over 300,000 wishlists, putting it into the top 100 most wishlisted games on Steam. There's also another Square Enix title in the works with The Adventures of Elliot, which is an action-adventure that will finally show how the HD 2D art style holds up outside of turn-based JRPGs. All of these titles getting millions of players definitely showed that you can make great sprite-based games in Unreal, which brings us to the next topic. Showing the Unreal logo during the startup of these games might have had some effect, but the message didn't reach everyone, and the majority of developers still had no idea that it's even possible to make 2D and 2.5D games with Unreal. And that might be because it's always marketed as the cutting-edge engine for hyper-realistic graphics. And when I started looking into Paper 2D near the end of 2021, everyone was just hating on it and recommended against using it, telling people they should just use Unity instead. But there actually were a handful of people that already made devlogs using Paper 2D and even a few tutorials, but nobody was really doubling down on it. After I messed around with it a little bit and got great feedback on my first couple of videos, I fell in love with the tools and saw an opportunity here to create content for a niche that has a lot of demand but very little supply. It was also perfect timing since the Paper ZD plugin became free just around that time and made everything so much easier by expanding Paper 2D's capability through animation graphs and anim notifies. While I only made devlogs at first to really get to know the tools, after I felt confident and put out my first tutorial on how to make 2D games in Unreal, it blew up more than I could have ever imagined. Which then led to me really doubling down on both Paper 2D and Paper ZD, causing my channel to reach over 8 million views to date. I also think addressing issues that people were concerned about like performance and file size by showing how Unreal 2D games can easily run at 300 FPS or higher on a Steam Deck, and putting out a guide on how to get the default package size down to half the size helped with shutting down a lot of skepticism. And while I believe my efforts did play a role in educating people on how to use Paper 2D and spreading the word that you can actually make great games with it, I definitely don't want to take all of the credit. There are many other content creators who also made Unreal 2D tutorials in the last couple of years, with many of them reaching tens if not hundreds of thousands of views. And we now also have a quite active community sharing information and making awesome plugins that expand what can be done with Paper 2D. But something else also happened that really helped change people's perception. And I don't want to ride on this too hard, because I already did in the past, but the main competitor of Unreal, Unity, just can't stop shooting themselves in the foot and lost the trust of many developers. Around the time they announced the runtime fee, which would require developers to retroactively pay a certain amount of money for each time their game was downloaded, I saw the biggest spike in views on my Unreal 2D content. And even now I often get messages from people telling me they switched over during that period of time and are very happy with their decision. Even if the actual 2D toolset of Unreal is still lacking compared to Unity, more transparent licensing terms, best-of-class visual scripting through blueprints, and overall being feature-rich and robust made Unreal a valid alternative for many. Another big milestone for me was Ari's speech at Unreal Fest Seattle roughly a year ago.
How many say this is bust? You can definitely make 2D games in Unreal.
And it felt amazing to see everyone raise their hand, seeing how far the message has spread. But do you know what does not feel amazing? Having constant back pain from sitting on a suboptimal chair when working at your desk. For the last year or so, I've been using this gaming chair that seemed decent enough at first, but it's not ergonomic, and after using it for a few minutes, I always end up sliding down and then sit in the most unhealthy way imaginable for most of the day. And with me usually spending over 10 hours a day on my computer, that led to me having serious back pain pretty much every day. Knowing that things can't go on like this, I started looking into getting a new chair, and after I tried an ergonomic office chair at my friend's place, I knew what to do. The chair I'm talking about is the C7 Morpher by FlexiSpot, and after I reached out to them, they offered to sponsor this video and sent me a chair. I've been using it for about a week now, and the pain in my back and neck has already disappeared completely, allowing me to focus and get much more work done. I absolutely love the 3D headrest, which you can not only tilt at just the right angle, but you can also adjust the depth by pulling it forward, allowing you to perfectly support your head. The Flexi Lean tech used in the backrest allows you to adjust the angle forwards by up to 10 degrees to match your sitting position and fully support your upper back all day long. The lumbar support is also special, and you can inflate it to adjust the pressure on your back, while the angle can also be adjusted to match your preference. When it comes to the seat, the depth of it can be adjusted to match your sitting style, and it's made from next-gen upgraded hybrid mesh rest material, providing 30% more breathability and reducing hip pressure by 20%. The chair also comes with a 5D armrest, which can be fully adjusted to support your arms when typing and gaming. Another great thing about the armrest is that it synchronously adjusts with you as you recline in your chair, providing support at every angle. And reclining in this chair feels great since the lumbar support moves along with the back as you recline, unlike other chairs, meaning your back will be perfectly supported during the process. When gaming, I love to also pop out the footrest and lean back to relax, which made my recent sessions with Octopath Traveler 0 much more enjoyable than sitting on the sofa hunched over trying to read the text. The chair comes with a 30-day return policy for risk-free trial and has a 10-year warranty with direct replacement for damaged parts. Use my code in the video description to get the best price on FlexiSpot chairs, and if you have a limited budget, you can also check out their C7 and C5 chairs, which also have a good build quality and basic functions for adjustments. Now back to the rest of the video. Let's now talk about the main reason I even made this video in the first place, and that are small 2D and 2.5D indie games made with Unreal. To find these, I spent days going through the horrible depths of SteamDB, and again, the full list is in the description if you want to check it out. Many titles that I've never heard of before actually grossed tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a lot of these games got quite positive reviews. Like I said, there's a large variety of genres and different art styles here, and I'm pretty sure you'll find something on there that will inspire you or give you ideas for your own game. When it comes to the release date of these titles, there was a big increase in 2021 before things stagnated a bit, and then in 2023 and 2024 things really took off with many new titles releasing. And FYI, I'm mostly adding games to the list that have at least 10 reviews and look decent, or that haven't released yet but do already have a large amount of wishlists. If I were to also list all games that are really low quality or include AI-generated adult games, then this list would actually be much larger, probably exceeding 300 titles. But still, there's way too many titles on here to talk about, and I just want to mention a few I came across recently. The Citadel and Beyond Citadel are Doom-style boomer shooters which sold an estimated 170,000 units. Goo Goo Pizza is a rage game that uses pixel art for the characters and stylized models for the environments. And Northwind is a monster hunting roguelite deck builder inspired by mechanics from Magic the Gathering. And I think these are just some good examples for the variety you can see here. Throughout this video, we already talked about Paper 2D and Paper ZD, but the truth is that even without these tools, you can make 2D games in Unreal. You simply have to attach textures to quads and drive the animations through materials. And Subway Midnight is an example of this, since Paper 2D was still in early development back then and the developers simply didn't know about it. While larger studios can afford to just build their own tools and extensions of Paper 2D, for indie devs the Paper ZD plugin and how much it improves the workflow is definitely a game changer. And I believe many people would have just gone back to Unity if it wasn't for this free plugin, and I'm pretty sure my channel would have also taken a completely different turn and not focus on 2D games. Despite that, it isn't perfect, and features like a skin system to make animation blueprints reusable and a layer system have been absent until very recently. In January 2026, a different plugin called 2D Actor Plus by Winsley Labs released and actually did have both of these features, making it superior to PaperZD if your game depends on these. And since this plugin was also free, it was the first time PaperZD had any real competition, and I guess that lit a fire under the developer, because just a few weeks later, PaperZD got a huge update with these two features and more, now giving us two different plugins to choose from. So even if there haven't been any official improvements to Paper 2D since 2018, the community is doing a great job at expanding its capability and smoothing out the rough edges. So what's the verdict? I believe that big successful titles like the HD 2D games from Square Enix and others like Ender Lilies showing what's possible, more and more content creators picking up Paper 2D and some tutorials getting hundreds of thousands of views, Unity messing up and people looking for alternatives, more and more indie games releasing in general, and community-built additions to Paper 2D evolving and offering a vastly improved workflow all play a role in why 2D Unreal Engine games are now everywhere. And that makes me very excited to see how things will develop further and what kind of games we'll see in 2026 and onward. As always, a huge thanks to my patrons and YouTube channel members.